14 to 20 range. And the reason I put such a big rage on it is, I mean, it's splitting hairs at that point with some of these teams because the resumes are all pretty similar and everyone has a bad loss at this point and everyone's looked bad against a sub.
Welcome to the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation with your hosts Kylor Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation. I apologize. You didn't hear a beer clip, so maybe Matt can edit it. But, I haven't drank on this podcast. I don't think at all. Something's changed in my life, and I don't know what it is. Drank a lot yesterday, so it's not me being sober. But as you can see, we don't have Matt's beautiful face. We don't have Jamie's ugly face, but we got three other ugly faces that are coming on this podcast because Matt and Jamie said, Kylor, we really dislike you. You called someone a pedophile the other day on this show. And, we decided we're not going to be on your podcast anymore. So we got the Taco King, we got Rev, and then, of course, Mr. Bluebloods himself, the most knowledgeable man in the FCS. He makes Jamie look like he doesn't watch football. So at the end of the day, I'm excited, guys, because we finally have a crew who knows more football than Jamie. And I can't wait to actually hear your guys' thought processes. But as today, I decided this ensemble, this beautiful ensemble, is dedicated to the losers, the what have you nots, the ones who couldn't win. I wanted to troll a little bit before we get started, but of course, Rev, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I just want to say Southern Utah got screwed. Just want to put that out there. Southern Utah got screwed. And real quick, shout out to Houston Baptist.
That is a cool shirt. I like the shirt. That one's pretty badass. Zach, of course, Bluebloods, how you doing, my friend?
Man, doing good. Appreciate y'all having me, man. Looking forward to we got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about, and it's nice actually having you. You said you were on 7 different shows today, so for one, I just appreciate you, taking a little bit out of your time, out of your day to, come chat with the underdogs, the people who don't really know what's going on, and of course, speaking of someone who doesn't know what's going on at all is the Taco King, right? Here you go, Bryan Thompson, the Taco King. I don't think that dude's ever made one point that has ever stuck. So it's going to be really exciting to kind of hear some of his takes. How you doing, Taco?
Yeah, can't complain. Doing good in Fargo. And, something happened in Missoula the other day that, we've all been calling.
Go Grizz. It looks like they recruited Eastern's defense. I mean, that's what it looked like to me. But Taco, I thought you'd be in Cancun right now or Cozumel.
No snow yet here. So we're good to go for another month or so. But, Taco is actually probably heading further north.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I like it. Further north, you mean where North Dakota is? You're Fighting Hawks, or are you talking about Canada?
Probably Canada for a while. Had to do a big grown-up thing and got engaged.
They're not going to let you in.
Congratulations, my friend. I mean, that's kind of exciting news. I don't know who would do it, but hey, lucky enough, you found someone.
Like you said, you missed the opening of this. She had a couple and made a really hazy decision.
There you go. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I mean, again, we have a lot to talk about, like Zach said. There's a lot of topics, a lot of great questions that were asked. So let's go ahead and get started.
What are FCS fans talking and posting about nonstop? It's time for the top 6 topics of the week.
All right. First question is going to go to the mighty Grizz. Should the Grizz be considered lucky to be a top 20 team? If not, out of the top 25? Also, can they still make a run to Frisco, or are they dead in the water? I want to start it off with Mr. Taco King himself because he is born and raised in Montana, if you guys did not know that. So he's got a soft spot in his heart for Montana, and he roots for him all the time. So, Taco King, let's start kind of your feedback on how do you feel about this Grizz team? Are they lucky to still be in the top 20? Of course, the polls are going to come out soon. Should they even be in the top 25? And can they figure it out and potentially make a deep run to Frisco last year? Because, again, if we remember what happened last year, everyone kind of tucked them to the side about week 5 and said they have no shot. And then they ended up going to Frisco. Can we see maybe another run like that in the future?
Montana's never a team to count out in it. Bobby's a good coach. I know he gets a lot of slack and a lot from people, but at the end of the day, Montana is a top team in the FCS. Are they top 20 still? Absolutely. I do not believe there's 20 teams out there right now better than the Grizz. The Grizz got a lot to figure out on defense, though. Giving up 55 points the week before, giving up that many points, going into shootouts, that's not a style to win football games, in my opinion, on this. You got to learn to play defense. The Grizz can put up points. So can they play a little defense? And am I going to say they're out of the top 20? No. I would put them 13, 14, I think, around that vicinity.
Ooh, okay.
I just don't think there's 20 teams better than the Grizz in the FCS. I just don't.
Okay, fair enough. Rev, what's your rebuttal?
I would still probably have them near 20. I don't think they're below 20. The thing with the difference in the Montana team that we're seeing this year versus the team they had last year is last year they made a switch to a big difference maker at the helm at quarterback. They went from Vidlac to McDowell. And McDowell, if you don't believe McDowell's a game changer, look at what he's done with McNeese versus what happened with McNeese this past week whenever he wasn't in the game. And so they don't have that same sort of person at the helm, right? They don't have, to me, someone who has the talent to play at the next level right now. And that's the difference. Are they outside the top 20? No. But if their defense doesn't show up and doesn't figure out how to come in and play and not let teams that they should stop go all over them, they could fall out of the top 25 at some point. But Bobby Hawk is not a man to count out. He's a good coach. No matter how much crap you give him, he's a good coach. He knows how to adjust. So I'll be very interested to see what he does after these past 2 weeks performances.
Do you think they have a shot at Frisco?
No, I already don't think so. And just because I don't think they have that same, like I said, that same captain leading them out on the field that you saw like last year with McDowell. And I don't think their defense is good enough to carry the rest of the team. And so, no, I think they could still be a playoff team. But I don't think they're going to Frisco.
Yeah, this Montana team seems a little like opposite of what it was last year in the grand scheme of things. You know, in the beginning of last year, week 5, we were talking about how horrible the quarterback play is, right? How horrible their offense is. They can't score on anyone. But the good thing is that defense was keeping them in the game outside of everything but the NAU trap game, right? The defense was pushing them forward. The defense looked phenomenal. The defense was one of the top defenses in all of the FCS. The line was fantastic. The linebackers were fantastic. That front 7 was a nightmare. Now we have this Grizz, team where we've been making fun of their offense, or at least I have, for the past 8 years, saying they don't have a quarterback. They can't find one. They can't develop one. And their offense sucks. Well, now their offense is looking like it's one of the best offenses in all the FCS, especially the last few weeks. But that defense is reminding me a lot of a defense that I see every single Saturday when I root for my own team. And it's unfortunate to see. Actually, it's kind of fun to see because I personally like shootouts just because, my team has only had a couple good defenses in their life. But I like shootouts. I think they're fun. I think they're entertaining. I just like to be on the winning side of them, of course. I think I took Grizz out of my top 20. I don't think they're number 14. And how I'm viewing it is I just don't think Weber State's very good. I think Weber State's quarterback play has been pretty atrocious all year until yesterday, where he looked like maybe a Walter Payton Award winner yesterday. Weber State lost to McNeese. They lost to, who is it? Lamar. And those aren't bad teams by any means. Those are teams that have improved the last few years for sure. But it's not a team. If Weber State is a top 25 team and Montana's a top 25 team, you would think Weber State should have been able to kind of roll through those. And unfortunately, they didn't. So now you look at Montana, who's been they were dominated by North Dakota, right? They got in close wins against a really bad Eastern team who's 1-4. Sure, there's 3 plays and Eastern could have been 4-1, but guess what? That's not how the dice was rolled. They're 1-4. They don't look very good. Missouri State wasn't very good, and Montana was still struggling with them. And then they actually get in this shootout against Weber State, and it doesn't go their way at home. At home's a big thing. So I still kept them in my top 25 because when I was doing my poll, it was really hard to find 25 teams worthy to be in the top 25 right now. It seems like this was a much harder top 25 this early in the season than any year I've done a top 25. So I kept them in, but I think they're hugging around 24 or 23 right now. Now, like Bryan said, this is a team that is very well coached, right? Bobby Hauck is one of the, probably one of the most winningest coaches in FCS football by far in the Big Sky. He's got extreme amount of talent. He's been to how many national title games? It's been a lot, right? This is a coach who can get stuff together, as we saw last year. between week 5, week 7, week 8, week 10, completely different Montana team. So there's still a lot of hope, and they do have a lot of talent. This is not a team that has no talent. So if they can figure out a way to gel together, get their coaches on the same page, get the play calling right on the defensive side of the ball, this could be a scary team because that offense is actually rolling. But as of right now, I mean, it's hard to say, is Frisco dead in the water? No, because you can always improve. As long as you make the playoffs, anything can happen. But it's really hard to see this Montana team, especially with the way their defense is playing, making it a run to Frisco. If they don't change a lot of things, they could be a very early team out. So, yeah, Zach, what's your thought process on the Grizz?
Yeah, there's still a top 20 team, and I think it goes back to what all you guys said. I just don't know if there's a lot of worthy candidates right now. Like, when you're putting it together, your ballot, like for me, I think the drop off hits about 9. Like, I don't even know if there's a team I feel comfortable putting at number 10 right now. Like, I was making my ballot and I was like, okay, I don't know who goes here. Like, it could be anybody because you start looking at teams and they all have like massive flaws. And it's like, okay, well, they should have lost this game and they look terrible against this team, which isn't very good. So I think Montana's probably somewhere in that like 14 to 20 range. And the reason I put such a big rage on it is, I mean, it's splitting hairs at that point with some of these teams because the resumes are all pretty similar and everyone has a bad loss at this point and everyone's looked bad against a subpar opponent. But defensively, I think the biggest thing for me that I've seen with Montana is I don't think they're forcing turnovers at the clip that they were the previous few years. And turnovers have kind of been, when you play that aggressive style of defense, if you're not forcing turnovers, you're giving up explosive plays. And I think we're seeing what happens when that scheme doesn't work well. Because I think you look across, they're doing a good job of creating negative plays. They're getting to the quarterback. Hayden Harris is having an outstanding year at defensive end for them. And I think they nailed some of their transfers. Vi Cahow at linebacker is really, really good. And I just think it's a turnovers, man. You got to find a way to get off the field, and they're not doing that. But for Weber State to go out there and throw for almost 400 yards against you, when quarterback was by far the biggest question mark for Weber. And I mean, they struggled to produce any offense against Lamar, which Lamar's defense really isn't dominant, right? Lamar's not a bad team, but Lamar's not out here just shutting people out and locking everybody up. So I don't understand what went wrong here. But you look ahead of their schedule, there's going to be some beatdowns coming if you can't stop the run or the pass. Because Montana State, you can say what they want. Everyone can say what they want about they haven't played anybody. Go ahead and not stop the run against Montana State. It's going to get out of hand quickly. And UC Davis's offense is not a joke either. And that's coming down the pipeline as many times as we've seen Davis collapse. Historically, this team has talent at quarterback with Miles Hastings, and Len Larison is one of the most dynamic players in the country. So I don't know if they're a true contender for Frisco right now, just because you look at who are the top contenders. North Dakota State can do it through the air and on the ground with Cam Miller. South Dakota State can run the football, and they still got the reigning Walter Payton Award winner, regardless of how you feel about his performance this year. You got Montana State, who can run the football and has Tommy Millott. And heck, even when you go to the second-tier contenders, try not to stop the run against Central Arkansas. Shandaric Powell is going to go for 200 in the first half, so that's what concerns me with them. Is I'm not going to say they're dead, but right now, matchup-wise, I find it really hard to see them making an unbelievable run to Frisco, but they're still a top 20 team right now.
Yeah. And the rest of the schedule is kind of fun to look at because, we'll talk about probably the Big Sky later, but at the end of the day, there's some athletic teams. And I put the emphasis on athletic, maybe not good, but athletic teams that have a lot of talent. So you're looking at NAU, who can score pretty dang quick. And we've seen it, a little bit up and down throughout the last few seasons, but when they're rolling, NAU can actually be pretty rolling. Then you got UC Davis, like you just said. Then you got Portland State with a very dynamic dual threat quarterback. And right, Montana was struggling stopping the run against Eastern, who isn't the most run-heavy team. I mean, they're pretty balanced this year. But, I mean, Eastern's line and running backs were kind of running through Montana. And then Weber, who was struggling with their quarterback play, was thrown all over him. It looked like Montana hasn't played a quarterback all season. So you have Portland State, who can score at will. And then you got Montana State, like you just said, running the ball. Like, good luck. If you can't stop Eastern running the ball, what are you going to do against Montana State? So you have still 4 teams, because, of course, they're going to beat Northern Colorado. They're going to beat Cal Poly. But you still have 4 teams left on the schedule that can score or that can play significant defense to where your offense better be rolling. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how far Montana can go. Now, all right, this is a side topic. We're all probably saying they're not Frisco ready right now. if you had to put money on where you think they will go, or as far as you think they will go in the playoffs, where are you putting them? Zach, I want to start with you.
In this scenario, do they get home field? Like, how far do they get?
Okay, let's say they lose 2 more games, so they don't get home field.
Quarters?
Maybe they get home field week 1.
I'll say quarters.
Quarters? Okay.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Like, if it is how it is now, then I think they win first round and lose in the second round. Like, the point is, like, I'm not saying their offense is bad, because their offense is not bad, but when you have to be in a track meet constantly in your games because your defense, you're scoring 35, but your defense is giving up 42, then you have a problem and you're not going to go further. So no, if they don't write it, I don't think they make it. They make it past the second weekend.
Bryan?
I'm with Rev on this one. I'm actually going to be shocked if they only lose 2 more games. I think this next week coming up with the Grizz, I think it's going to be big. NAU just lost a nail biter that they had chances to win. I think NAU is actually a very, very improved team from last year.
Yeah, they got some talent.
I wouldn't be shocked to see NAU win next week.
If Montana can put together the last 2 weeks of offense, now Weber State's in Eastern's defense isn't very good, so take this last 2 weeks with a grain of salt. But if Montana put the last 2 weeks of their offense with the first 3 weeks of their defensive play,
they'd be
that's
undefeated.
A pretty dangerous team.
Yeah, it is. I think this next week's going to tell us a lot about Montana.
Yep.
NAU, vastly improved team. What's Montana going to do? Are they going to find a gut check and come out? They're at home again in Wagriz. And much as we want to give Montana crap about the Mecca, this or that, I'll be the first to say, and I grew up a Montana State fan. Washington Grizzly, it is the Mecca when we come to stadiums in the FCS. It is the hardest place to play a football game in the FCS. It's harder than the Fargo Dome. It gets loud there. And I think the Montana fans are going to be there. They're going to be loud. So show me what happens next week with NAU. Montana can win the NAU game. I might retract my statement and say quarters, maybe a little more if they can find it. It wouldn't surprise me because, like I said, I do believe Bobby is one of the best coaches in the FCS.
Yeah, if they can somehow manage to get to the point where they can get a little bit of home field advantage in the playoffs, Wagriz is the ultimate intangible, and so that would help them go further. But I don't. If they become road dogs, then I don't know.
Especially Wagriz in the winter, where maybe you can't throw as well.
Yeah,
that's where it becomes a different beast altogether. Well, hey Dennis, appreciate your question, Dennis. I think we talked about that for about 12 minutes, so that's a solid start. All right, so now we got, let's see here, UND, Matt's favorite topic, right? Has UND been hiding behind their home field advantage the last few weeks? Shoot, you could probably even say the last few years. Will UND be able to make a deep playoff run? We're going to go with, let's see, Zach right now. I want to hear your words of wisdom about UND. Are they hiding behind their home schedule? Because we have seen them perform extremely well at home, and then on the road, they've been about a 500 team the last few years, right? So are they as good as we think they are, or did they just finally come into the beast of maybe the old North Dakota States of a few years ago?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I'll be the first to admit I was not high on North Dakota this year. I didn't even have my preseason top 25. I did not expect them to be very good. Just had too many question marks along the offensive line. Defensively, they were replacing a lot of talent, and just quarterback. I still don't believe in quarterback, and we're sitting here going into week 7, and I think that's the conversation needs to be had. It's not home field advantage. To win at the FCS level, you have to have an elite quarterback. And Simon Romfo would not start at another top 15 program right now. And that's no offense to him, but he just isn't that guy. And I really didn't expect them to compete well with North Dakota State this week. And it was a bad matchup. North Dakota State finally figured out how to stop the run. And if you stop the run against North Dakota, they are one-dimensional. And poor Bo Belquist out there is a stud. The problem is sometimes it's hard to get him the football when you don't have a quarterback. And just defensively, they haven't been stout, right? Because I know you were joking earlier that, they dominated Montana. They couldn't stop a nosebleed in the first half against Montana. Montana was running away with that game until they, for some reason, stopped giving Eli Gilman the ball, which still baffles me. I just don't think this is an elite team. I don't know what it's going to take to get there, but they just don't have the pieces to compete with, I think, top 10, top 15 programs in the FCS right now. And it's because of their quarterback play, and they're super one-dimensional, and they got talent at running back. But when you stop the run, man, the wheels fall apart, and I just don't see the trajectory of this team leading to a deep playoff run again.
Fair enough. And yeah, whenever I say Montana's dominated, that means they lost by at least 1 point. So, I mean, that's how my mindset works. I know, what was it, like 27-24? Something like that.
27-24.
Like game. Yeah, and it was a tale of two halves, but I don't care. Go Grizz. All right, Taco King, how are you feeling about UND, or did they just finally, run into the freight train of your North Dakota State Bison?
I think I have to agree with Zach on this. When you look, you got Bo Belquist out there, which is I hate to say this, it's hard to see him in a UND because his dad played at NDSU. So that's a tough one to see out there. But that kid is an absolute stud. But I think at the end of the day, Zach is right. Their QB and their coach even mentioned it in the post-game press conference, if you listened to it. He said, he's not seeing a bunch of schemes like he's going to see with these top teams. Well, if you got a QB that can't read the field, change the plays, know his first look is not there, because when I was at the game, a lot of his looks, he wasn't coming off his first look. It was really surprised to see him drop down and look at his 2, look at his 3, which I can probably count on 2 fingers how many times I saw him do that. He would lock into Bo when he would pass, and if Bo wasn't there, he was in trouble. So I think at the end of the day, UND's, again, are they a top 25 team? Sure. Were they the 7th team? I don't think so. No.
I'm actually going to say, I think there's a chance UND is still about a top 8 team. I think right now what we're seeing is the 2 other Dakota schools, and maybe you can even throw South Dakota in there right now because they're playing dominant. Now I want to see what they play against a little bit better competition right now. But I mean, I think as of right now, it's like there's 3 teams and then a fairly decent drop-off. And some of the drop-off is due to injuries, right? Because Idaho's offense, after they had those injuries, they look pretty stagnant. Their defense still looks pretty electric. And then there's other teams that are just missing something. So I actually think UND, they still might be a top 8 team, but North Dakota State looks so much better. Every single week, they're looking better and better. Cam Miller looks phenomenal. The defense looks phenomenal, right? So I get, like, everyone was judging kind of North Dakota State because of the ETSU game, and it was so close, and, North Dakota State lost, but that's one game. Outside of that, they have looked dominant, and it looks like the North Dakota State of old. And even some of those dominant programs from North Dakota State, they struggled early in the season. They won in overtime. They won a close game from an out-of-conference schedule. And then they just kind of blew through everyone. So if this was 3 years ago, let's say it's 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and North Dakota State just dominated North Dakota like this, or another top 5 team, we wouldn't be saying, is this team a top 5 team? No, they do that sometimes in the semifinals, right? Does that mean it's not a top 5 team, not a top 4 team? No, I just think one thing that has been actual real is it does seem like the Fighting Hawks, they do play better at home. I mean, that's just a fact. The stats show it themselves. If you look at the last few years, again, it's a phenomenal home record. What do they have, like 3 losses in the last 7 years, something ridiculous like that? And then on the road, they're kind of 500. And it is what it is. I mean, the Alaris Center is a tough place to play, or they at least get rowdy. They get ready for that game, and it's a little bit of home field advantage. But I don't think they're frauds. I don't think they're hiding behind their home field record. I think actually North Dakota the last few years is continuing to improve. It's just there's a big gap in talent. I do think the quarterback play, even though, he only missed 5 throws, when you watch the game, he did not look as good as basically his accuracy was, right? He looked like what you said, Brian. He's fine. He was having a tough time reading where his wide receivers were. He wasn't able to look multiple times. NDSU was in his face. I mean, it just looked like a quarterback who was a little shell-shocked. So, I mean, it does depend on how far that quarterback can take them. But again, this UND team, I think they could be a majority of the top 25. I really do. I don't think there's a lot of teams who can go in and beat this Fighting Hawk team. I just think maybe South Dakota State, with their defense, it's going to be hard to do anything versus them. North Dakota State, it's going to be hard to stop them and do anything versus them. And then you have Montana State. Good luck running it. Other than that, I think the Fighting Hawks can be in any game versus the rest of the top 25 and have a chance to win. I just think maybe the tier is separating themselves a little bit more. Like Zach said, the last question, it was really hard to find a top 10 worthy team. When you got to that 10 mark, who was worthy? I have no clue, too. It took me a while just looking at resumes, looking at every single team going, dude, I don't even know if they're top 30 and I'm putting them at 11. It's because there's no one else. What are you going to do? So I think maybe we're being a little harsh. This was a redemption game from North Dakota State, who wanted a big butt kicking from last year. This is a rivalry. And again, this North Dakota State looks a little different from the last few years. This looks like the North Dakota State of old. Rev, sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes. I just wanted to, go in a little roundhouse. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah.
Go.
No, you're good. My thing about Ramfo is that he's not a big guy. He's 5'10", $190, right? Going up against, the size of the NDSU defense, going up against some of the size of the defense he's going to play against this year, that's a big disadvantage for him, I think. And also it's crazy is that other than the North Dakota State game, his best completion game or percentage game was against Idaho State. Other than that, he's been sub 50%.
Yeah.
Every other game. But to the point about UND, I think they'll finish probably with 8 wins by the time the season's done, honestly. They've got a favorable schedule for the rest of the year. They still got South Dakota State. But, they've got winnable games in the Alara Center. And then the games on the road are against teams they should be, teams like Indiana State, So they could be 8-win team. They'll be in the playoffs. I don't think it's time to freak out yet. I think what happens is they were a mid to good team who went up against one of the best teams in the FCS and got the result that you would expect, much like you've seen every other year, with the exception of last year, every other year. I think the closest victory, and Bryan, you can tell me if I'm wrong here, since both NDSU and UND joined Division I, the closest UND's come is 21 points in Fargo.
I might be more than that, Rev. I think he wins 31, I read.
Yeah, but they just, you're here versus here, and that's just not I don't think it's fault of theirs. I think it's just where they are right now.
Yeah,
I think they can make the upper run, guys.
In Kylor, I think with North Dakota, the next 3 weeks for them, it looks like they should be set up to win. And you look at their schedule, the last 3 games, they have a gauntlet. They go South Dakota, both the South Dakota schools. And then they finish with an Illinois State team who NDSU also blew out of the water. But yesterday, they blew their team out of the water in Southern Illinois, who was a top 10 team, but their injuries have devastated them. So sorry, Jeremiah. I know your team is looking to do good this year, but you're the first to say it. They're in trouble with injuries. But I think we'll find a lot out about them at the end of the year. They have 3 games that they could. I have a tough time seeing them beat either South Dakota school right now.
Well, you had a beautiful conversation piece to set up the next question beautifully. So, hell of a job there, Taco King. I guess you are worth something. That was impressive. So, I wanted to start with you. Looking at NDSU versus, Southern Illinois. What are your thoughts on the game after watching what Illinois State just did to Southern Illinois?
I think honestly at the beginning of the season, I thought, God darn, NDSU has a tough game before we get the bunnies in the dome. I don't like it. I like a layup. Well, after what's happened to SIU, I think NDSU just got a layup. I really do. And I hate to say that about them, but I think NDSU just got a layup. I don't know if you guys watched the game. The game, towards the end of the game, there was a moment where it wasn't, oh my God, NDSU's crushing UND. It was, oh my God, Cam Miller's getting helped off the field. And he went to the locker room, and the whole gasp in the dome, because it's going to be a vastly different team if you don't have Cam Miller QB. Yeah. So I look at that, and what it was said is I saw him. I was right behind the team there, about 6 rows up. He came back out, put his helmet on, did some running, but obviously didn't go back in the game. After the game, coach said he could have went back in the game, but I don't know if I'm the coach and he's 99%, I'm sitting him, I think, against SIU. Do I hate that for him? Because I think Cam right now is the best player in the FCS, hands down. But at the end of the day, saying that he is the best player in the FCS, hands down, you need him for that SDSU game. You absolutely need him for that game. And I think Cam needs that game for himself, because the last time the Bunnies came into the game, Cam got a flag on a touchdown that was probably going to be the dagger in that game of beating. NDSU would have won up, I believe, 28 points. And the old bow and arrow came out, and one of the refs didn't like it. And I think it was you, Kylor, that told me he did the bow and arrow, and I think the ref thought he missed the bow part, and it was a neck slash, and that's when the flag came out. So that was hard to see.
Yeah, I don't think that was me. I like everything.
I I think it's a layup for them. I think NDSU wins by whatever amount they feel like. Easy win, have the starters out mid-third, and start preparing for SDSU.
Yeah, with the Southern Illinois team, I had a lot of hopes in them because they actually looked really good, especially against like Incarnate Word. Then unfortunately, injuries are part of this game, right? And sometimes a team can bounce back from an injury with a quarterback, and quarterback is a very important position to not have an injury, right? But some teams, they have enough depth where they can bounce back, and maybe the flow of the game doesn't change that much. Maybe they have a really good number 2. It looks like Hunter, and I'm not one to dog on any specific player at the FCS level. That's not my forte. I hope every single kid is successful. You guys are running with a D1 scholarship. You guys are given an opportunity, and I hope every single one of you guys kill it. The only person, maybe Robbie Howe. No, other than that, no, I think, it's unfortunate to kind of see this Southern Illinois team that had so much potential. I think I put them in like my top 8, and I thought they were going to have a really good chance, at least upsetting or being competitive with some of the top dogs in the Valley. Then you see what's happened the last 3 weeks, and it's, they're pretty much dead in the water. I mean, they're not competitive. The offense is not flowing very well. The defense looks like they're just shell-shocked, and maybe I don't want to say have given up, but, maybe there is some momentum, or maybe there's a mindset where it feels like they've given up. I mean, they haven't been competitive since, the Incarnate Word game. SEMO kind of rolled through them, and I get that's kind of a rivalry game. You wouldn't think it, but they're pretty damn close to each other, so that is a rivalry game. It's fun. South Dakota is really good. They ran through them. Illinois State looks to be very improved from the last few seasons. They roll through them. So, I mean, looking at this game, honestly, I don't even know why the question was asked because this seems like a top dog versus maybe a bottom-tier Valley team right now, and we know what these top dogs do. But I'm rooting for Southern Illinois. I like the Salukis. Those Egyptian dogs are fantastic. So I hope they upset it. I hope Taco King, buys me 15 tacos in this upset. I just don't see it. I don't think this is going to be very competitive. I don't agree with Bryan where maybe they could sit all of their starters and still win. I think that's a tough task. But at the end of the day, North Dakota State should, especially with a healthy Cam Miller, should be able to do whatever they want. Zach, kind of what's your thoughts on this game? I'm probably the similar reaction.
Yeah, North Dakota State should walk away with this one. Probably a 3-touchdown favorite in that game. I'll say this. I don't think Hunter Simmons is a bad quarterback because I don't think he's the reason they're losing. Like, he's actually playing pretty well. The problem is they can't run the football for anything. I mean, they were averaging like 5 yards per carry with DJ Williams because of his legs, and they're averaging like 2 yards per carry now. They haven't been able to run the football well, and they have talent at wide receiver. Lewis and Hezekiah are studs out there, but defensively they have talent too. They've just been playing a million snaps out there because they don't have any offensive consistency. And I think the disconnect here was when you look at Idaho's quarterback situation, all 3 of their quarterbacks are the exact same style. Yeah, they all fit that scheme really well. DJ Williams and Hunter Simmons couldn't be more opposite quarterbacks than what their skill sets allow them to do. And you look at what SIU was doing. So over the first 3 weeks going into that Incarnate Word game, they slowly were getting used to having DJ back there at quarterback. They were building, and it all clicked finally. They finally figured out what they need to call for him. He gets hurt, and now you have to throw everything you just game planned away over the first 3 weeks and be like, well, now how do we get this pocket quarterback to fit this offense that we just schemed around a guy who could run for 200 yards a game if he wanted? And I think that's really what happened with SIU. I do think if they were healthy, this is a no-brainer top 10 team in my opinion because DJ Williams is that good at quarterback. But right now, man, I agree with you. I don't think they're a top 25 team. I don't know if they're a top 40 team without DJ Williams and with all the different starters because they're missing offensive linemen, running backs, secondary defenders, defensive linemen. It's just adding up. And so I think NDSU should walk away. And I do think they're good enough to win without Cam Miller, but mention every starter. And that would be something. But Cam Miller being out, I still think Peyton can get it done.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that. I mean, this is why we bring in Zach. Who's Jamie? I don't know. This is a very easy replacement. Zach, I think you're in a full-time gig here if you want to. I know you're running 7 shows. You're a busy man. But Jamie's traveling. He wants to go to Southern Utah game and have fun. Cedar City. Ooh, cool. Red Rocks. Who cares? Screw you, Jamie. We got Zach. Rev, you probably don't even need to add anything else. I'm pretty sure we all covered this one.
No, I heard SIU is hitting up the fraternity road to try to find players because they're just that decimated right now. Like, it's ridiculous. So, no, they're not a top 25 team. They're not a top 40 team. And honestly, NDSU could sit all their starters on both sides of the ball and still win by 3 touchdowns.
All right, we got two people going out. That's just insane. But it is what it is. We got some homers.
Hey, if you're listen, I love the Sock Lukis. I really do. They're one of my favorite mascots, but this is just not their year. Just sorry, guys. Like,
fair enough. Well, we do have a great question from Mr. Seth Meyer himself. Really awesome page member. All right, between Central Arkansas, right? Losers of the week, Montana, North Dakota, and Bill and Mary. I'm never going to call him Will. So Bill and Mary, who has the best chance to rebound and finish the season in the top 10? Now, this one could be kind of fun because, I mean, you could either value it as, oh, this team actually still, I think, is a top 10 team they could roll through, or you could look at it and go, maybe the schedule's aligned for this team to actually perform and just keep jumping up the rankings, especially when there's slot voters going on, right? So, Rev, since you didn't really get to answer a lot of it, out of these top 4 teams, which one has the best shot to end the season as a top 10? Let's actually do this 2 different ways. End of the season and then end of the playoffs, right? So end of the season top 10 and actually making it to the quarters.
Okay, so out of these teams, the one that's really the top 10 team to me is UCA. But the problem is UCA's schedule doesn't bode well for them. The United Athletic Conference is probably one of the most conferences with the most parity in it. And they're game against Abilene Christian. A lot of folks are like, who the hell is Abilene Christian? Abilene Christian's not a bad team. They got slandered on this show by a certain person hosting this a few weeks ago. And they're a top 25 team. And I just don't think with UCA still having like Tarleton State on their schedule, they don't have the schedule. I think they have a schedule to keep them in the top 20, but they're probably going to take another loss there. So they don't think they'd be the top 10. I think honestly it's Bill and Mary because the CAA is to me garbage. Like no offense to all fans of the 20 million schools that are in that conference, but to me outside of Villanova, I mean, Bill and Mary can easily, I think, slide in, get slot voted into the top 10. Now, will they go far in the playoffs? No. UCA will go further in the playoffs because I think UCA matches up against a lot of teams in the FCS a lot better than most folks realize. With having Derek Powell, having Darius Hill behind him, having Will McElvain, who's been deadly throwing the ball. You got one of the best players in the FCS on the UCA defense, right? UCA is a really good team. Their schedule works against them, I think, having them finish in the top 10. But I think they would go further in the playoffs than these other schools.
What was my quote that said ACU? They've been in my top 25.
You said that they were just you said that they were just a bad team that got lucky against an FBS team. That was what you said.
It was after the Idaho close loss. I was like, I don't know where they are because Northern Colorado almost beat them. Northern Colorado stinks. I said they're not even Division I, right? Yeah. And then I said Idaho. I just don't know if Idaho's quarterback play, if it fell down, that made ASU competitive, or if ACU is really that good. But they have it in my top 25 every week.
No.
But I think every single team sucks this year, so it's fine. Zach, let's go for it out of these 4.
God, I mean, this is such a brutal question because I'm kind of with Dustin. Like, I think the best team out of the 4 right now is probably UCA, as crazy as it may sound, just because I think they're probably the most complete team out of the 4. But when you look at everything, just because we talked about North Dakota already, I just don't think they have the quarterback play to get them there. The only thing that makes me maybe lean UND is that their schedule is just kind of easy these next few weeks. So maybe if they can get one of the last 3 tough games, could they still be in the top 10? Because I don't think they're going to drop very far if they lose to South Dakota and South Dakota State. I just don't think the voters are going to punish them there unless they're just brutal losses. But I think it's UCA because I'm maybe a little bit opposite of Dustin. Now look at their schedule. West Georgia's not beating them. North Alabama at home isn't beating them. Utah Tech is a road game that you're not worried about. Eastern Kentucky hasn't been very good this year. If you look at those last 2 games, you get Southern Utah at home, which you feel good. They got to come to the Stripes. And then at Tarleton State, we talk about teams who just keep finding ways to win without looking super impressive. It kind of defines Tarleton's season. This is going to be, can Kayvon Britton or Derek Powell run for 300 yards first in that game? That's all. That's what that game's going to be. But I give UCA the advantage in that game on the road because their quarterback's better. Will McElvain is a much better quarterback than what Victor's shown this year. So I think there's a good chance UCA could win out. And I do think this was a big wake-up call for them because they had opportunities to win this game, and they really just, in key moments, made just dumb mistakes. And I think this was the wake-up call they needed. So I'm going to go UCA just for the regular season here.
Yeah, I think Montana's schedule, we already kind of brought it up, is a little tougher. Just because maybe we also lost faith in Montana because of the defensive play. William and Mary, the schedule is actually kind of aligned for them to do some big things. I get they have Elon, Stony Brook, who's been kind of competitive, and Richmond to end the season, but it's hard to really put a gauge on who's the most dominant team in the CAA. I mean, William and Mary can kind of roll through all those, or maybe they're going to struggle and lose 3 games. I don't know. But UCA and UND kind of had the benefit of already being in the top 10, or at least pretty damn close to it after even this weekend. They're going to be hovering around there. So if they can handle business, they should, be top 10. And I like UCA's schedule more than North Dakota. Like Bryan said earlier, the last 3 weeks are kind of a gauntlet for them. If they can get 1 to 2 wins out of there, I have no issues putting still UND as a top 10, maybe top 12. If they can get 1 win. If they can get 2, put them in the top 10, put them in the top 6. I don't give a shit. But there's a chance they win 0 games in the last 3 weeks, and then good luck. Then we're even talking, are you a playoff team at that point? Probably, yeah, they would still be a playoff team, but now they're on the fence in the bubble instead of really talking about a top 10 team. So I think I like UCA too. I like Central Arkansas. Of course, I'm going to troll them, but I love the Stripes. I think their team's so fun to watch. That 2-headed monster is a beast, and I hate online there's Montana State fans going, you guys only have 1 running back. That's why he's so good. No, that means you're not educated, right? They have 2, and they're in the top 29. Your 2 running backs are in the top 27, and it was 6 yards apart before yesterday. So, you know what? It's a 2-headed monster, and good luck trying to stop UCA. I mean, shoot, they had a chance to win this. This was a fun game to watch. So I like Central Arkansas still being in the top 10. I like the rest of their schedule. That Tarleton State game is going to be fun if Tarleton keeps it up. So, Bryan, what's your thought process?
Mine's going to be really easy on this one. I'm just going to piggyback right off the last 2 guys because I'm just going to be honest on this one. I don't know a lot outside of the Missouri Valley or the Big Sky. So when it comes to that, I'm just going to jump right on the back of Zach's back, and I'm going to say, get going, Zach. I'm behind you. We'll push through anybody that gets in our way because between the 2 of us, I think we can match up the Rev and push Rev backwards.
I like it. There we go. All right.
What's up?
I was going
to say, Kylor, before, like when we talk about like the UAC, we talk about these games. That last 2 weeks for Central Arkansas, you're going to have in those 2 games, you're going to have 4 of the best running backs in FCS playing because you got Britton against Powell and Hale, but then you've got Targi Lamston whenever Southern Utah goes and plays them. Like I would just say, like watch those 2 games if you're a fan of awesome running backs because they're going to be fun ones to watch. So the shameless plug for the UAC.
100%. Everyone actually should watch those last 3 games. I mean, they are going to be electric, and there's some actual draft talent that's going to be on those teams. Don't worry, you don't have to tune into Flow. This is ESPN Plus, baby. We got it. So, no, I think you're right. Those games are going to be fun, especially on that running back play. I mean, Tarleton's running back looks like an absolute stud, too. He's a freak. This will be fun to see which running back. Those should be the prop bets. That's actually what we should do for the taco bet during those last weeks. Which one's going to get to 250 yards first? I mean, who knows? All right. Well, since Bryan says I don't know anything about anything besides Missouri Valley and Big Sky, we're going to bring it back to Big Sky play because that's where a bulk of these questions have been. Guys, I did not pick this. I get Matt's gone. I get Jamie's gone. Matt sent me the questions. I hate the Big Sky. Screw you, Big Sky. I'm not wanting to answer these questions, but unfortunately, it seems like all the questions are Big Sky related, so we're gonna talk about them. All right, so this is a good one from Derek. Idaho has 3 ranked wins and an FBS win. How good is their schedule really? Because, of course, we're judging the ranked wins off of time of when they're playing, not, in the future. And would a loss against MSU this week, as their 3rd week, would it really put them in trouble? And then the last question from Derek, should the winner of the MSU Idaho be number 1? I'm just going to take that last one. No. If Idaho wins, no, they should not be number 1. Okay. So I don't think the winner of this game should be number 1. If you want to put Montana State as number 1 if they win, sure. I have no problems with that. But you probably should have already had Montana State at 1 prior, or maybe South Dakota and North Dakota State lose. The rest of the questions I think we can answer because I think we're all in the same part. If Idaho wins, they're not number 1, right?
No, they got a loss.
Okay, so fair enough. Now, are you guys going to judge anyone if they put Montana State as number 1?
No, I actually personally, I would have Montana State number 1 right now if I had a legit ballot. I put them number 1. My true
that's
feel,
totally fair.
So
that's how we're going to answer that last one. All of us go rank MSU number 1. We don't care. They're kind of deserving right now. So is a couple other teams. Idaho, probably not. But if they win, what a bounce back from that UC Davis loss just, a few weeks ago. And man, that would put a staple and they'd be looking at a very high seed. So let's go with the rest of it, right? How good is Idaho's schedule so far in this season? And, if they do lose to Montana State, is there trouble in the water with Idaho? I want to go with Rev.
No, there's not. Look at how they're playing. Look what they're playing with. They're recruiting quarterbacks from the corner club, right? What's kept them really in the games is their defense. Their defense is looking so good this year. So no, I think if they have another loss, they're still going to be just fine. They've played a very, very tough schedule, and with everything they've had happen with injuries, they've stayed in. I think they showed just how good all around team that they do have. So I think people are just jumping on this sort of like question or style, like, or is this person a fraud or whatnot? Not just because they want to hate on somebody, right? And I love hating on somebody, but you can't hate on Idaho. No, Idaho's gonna be fine.
Okay, fair enough. Brian.
I think if Idaho wins the game, they're pretty set up the rest of their schedule to do pretty well. Obviously, they go Cal Poly, Eastern Washington next, who absolutely sucks. If you've noticed this year, I think mentioned somebody that 1-4 in this season. But then they set up with a bye week, and I think you can get some guys healthy there, hopefully for them. But the end of their schedule, Portland State, Weber State, Idaho State, I have a tough time seeing Idaho lose a game besides this one coming up. I really do. Yeah. So you look at that. I think they're set up pretty good there. Are they number one if they win this week, though? Absolutely not. I think if they win this week and give Montana State a loss, I still think you put SDSU at number one, NDSU number two, and let them figure it out in Fargo in a week from next week. And then
Mr. Blue Blood, let's hear some real reasons.
No, I mean they're not number one, but I mean I don't understand why people are questioning the schedule at all. Like, what do we mean? Like how good their schedule really is? I mean they have played more ranked opponents than anybody else in the country right now, and they have consistently competed well. Their only loss was a 2-point loss on the road to UC Davis at the FCS level. Like that's pretty good, and they were down to their third string quarterback who was one play away from leading a comeback.
Yeah.
That's a kid that should not have ever seen the field this year, and they're still finding ways to almost win. And then you look at their 2 FBS games. Yeah, Wyoming sucks, but they still find a way to win. And then they go on the road and play Oregon, who's a top 10 team in the nation right now, and play within 10 points. And I do think UAlbany was a little bit overrated, but still counts. But Abilene Christian is a good team. UC Davis is a good team. And Northern Arizona is way better than anybody expected. And they still found a way to bounce back and win that game with the injuries that they're dealing with right now. I'm not hitting the panic button. They lose to Montana State, and I expect them to lose to Montana State, especially in Bozeman. If this was in the Kibbie Dome, maybe we can have a different conversation. But Montana State's been rolling. And I get everyone says they haven't been tested. It doesn't matter. They've been on a different level watching the film. You really don't see many weaknesses with that team. But like Bryan said, I mean, after that, Cal Poly, Eastern Washington, Portland State, Weber State, Idaho State, they should roll to the playoffs. And if they're sitting there at 9-3, only 2 losses at the FCS level, on the road at UC Davis, on the road at Montana State, they should be in the conversation for a top 6 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair. I think the schedule conversation is a little weird. They've only played one mediocre team all year at the FCS level, and that is Albany, who was overranked at the beginning of the season. They lost a buttload to the portal. So probably if you pay attention to FCS ball, you probably wouldn't put Albany at the very top, right? You probably wouldn't have ranked them when they lost to everyone. Other than that, like you just said, ACU, even though I troll, looks pretty decent. UC Davis, pretty decent. NAU looks frisky. I don't think Idaho is winning this game, but that defense is going to keep them aligned in every single game. Now, the thing is, Jack Wagner is eventually coming back. I really don't think that helps or hurts Idaho. I don't think Jack Wagner looked all that good in any game. I don't think the quarterback plays looked good. I actually think Idaho's offense has been pretty mediocre, but I do think that's actually going to hurt them in more than just one game. They're going to get to an opportunity against a game where, there's a lot of frisky offensive talent left. I mean, we can all make fun of Eastern. I do it more than all of you guys, so it's fine. But Eastern Washington can still score on Idaho, and there was just last year, they kind of almost defeated Idaho with a third-string quarterback playing, right? Eastern's offense got better. Defense, probably not much better, but the good thing is Idaho's offense isn't very good. I'm not picking Idaho to lose, but it could create a scare. It's a rivalry game. Who knows what's going to happen? Portland State can be frisky. If Idaho, misses on a couple stops, maybe Idaho's offense isn't going to be good enough to carry them over that game. It is going to be a difference because I don't think UC Davis is a top 10 caliber team. I think they're frisky. I think the Big Sky is kind of overrated right now. I think there's a lot of mediocrity in the Big Sky this year, but we're getting a little extra love than probably more than we deserve. So I think, and Weber, who knows what Weber is going to show up? Is Weber yesterday going to show up, or is it going to be the Weber that played Lamar? I'm not sure. And then, of course, Idaho State has been a little frisky. And, they gave Idaho problems last year as well. I mean, this is a battle of the domes. They got the Spud, whatever you want to call it, King Spud, going to Pocatello. That's not going to be as easy as maybe everyone thinks, especially if your offense is not clicking. So I would not be shocked if Idaho loses 2+ more games. I wouldn't bet on it, but I would not be shocked. I think a lot of these games are closer to a 60-40 than what most people actually really believe in. So if they lose a couple, they're still going to make the playoffs. They can lose 2 games and still be playoff and still be fine. Probably get a home game at the Kibbie Dome. But 3 games probably won't lose that much. So, yeah, it'll be fun. But, yeah, this MSU game, I don't really think it matters. No. I think it matters more to Montana State than it does Idaho, and that would just be securing a top 2 seed.
Yeah,
if Montana State rolls through this, I mean, they're looking at a top 2 seed, and hopefully someone can play spoiler. I mean, that's what we're all doing in the Big Sky right now. We're trying to play spoiler, so no one has to go to Bozeman. But as of right now, yeah, this game, it's not going to hurt really Idaho that much. Might not hurt MSU that much, especially if they went out after this game. I mean, this is just 2 of the top 3 Big Sky teams this year. So it is what it is. But yeah, the schedule's fine. All right, only a couple more, and then we get into the taco bet. Which teams will earn a top 16 team in the playoffs? What? Out of those 16 playoff teams, who will be early and then, called frauds because of strength of schedule or something? And we've all said it. We've all looked at some of these teams and went, they're kind of fraud. They got up there. They got maybe an 8 seed, but they truly didn't deserve it. They're maybe not really a top 8 team, but there's 16 seeds. Which one is going to get bounced early? And then everyone's going to call them a fraud. Bryan, let's start with you, my friend.
Give me Montana. Montana. I'm going to say Montana gets beat their first game in Washington Grizz. Why? Because I don't like them. Plain and simple.
That's a beautiful answer. There's no bias with that. It's just I don't like them.
The Grizz get beat. Washington Grizzly. The Grizz fans go berserk on the page for a little bit. The lady doesn't pay me my taco. She's going to owe me. Therefore, Taco King's upset. Screw the Grizz.
Fair enough.
They can lose.
Fair enough. What about the Rev? What kind of top 16 teams are you going to think people are going to call frauds?
If the way people are voting stays the way it is and their schedule plays out the way it does, then Tarleton State will be a top 16 team and they'll get trounced in the first round. Also, too, if Nichols wins the Southland Conference, they'll get a top 16 seed and they'll probably get trounced in the first round as well. So that would be the 2 I would say are probably most at risk for being called frauds.
Okay. Zach?
You know what the hardest part of this question is? Figuring out who's going to be a top 16 seed outside of the top 4.
I have no clue.
I have no idea who's going to be a top 16 seed right now. Like I got 4 down: North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State, South Dakota.
Yeah,
those are 4 right there. I will say this one team I'm worried about, and I'll go with them. Why not? Let's call some controversy. I think it might be Villanova. I think I can see Villanova getting there. Their schedule is a joke right now, and they just. I know what all the analytics say. They've been killing it in success rate. They've really been dominating behind the scenes, but they've been very unimpressive, letting a lot of teams hang around, score late touchdowns, and in the postseason that gets you beat against really good teams. And I can see them just getting a bad matchup. You kind of look at look what happened with Montana State last year. What happens if Montana or someone has to go play Villanova in round 2? As much questions we have about the Grizz, we're probably all picking them to win that game. And so I could see Villanova just getting a bad matchup and getting knocked out early.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to take it a little bit of a different direction and go probably anyone not in the Missouri Valley is going to be called a fraud. I mean, you have Taco King. He says it every single week in a group chat. You guys should read it. We should blast some of the stuff that goes on. We'd all get canceled. But I think outside the Missouri Valley, and the Missouri Valley just looks so much more dominant than everyone else. I think it's going to be very loud with the Missouri Valley fans. If anyone gets bounced in early, they go, they didn't play, in the SEC of FCS ball, right? That's what's going to happen. And I think most of the conferences outside of I think the UAC is actually pretty frisky. I think they're fun. I think the Southland is actually pretty fun this year. They're actually improved. I think a lot of other conferences regressed outside of those, two, and then Missouri Valley, of course, is what they are. But I think the Big Sky's regressed. So I think it's fair to call a lot of them frauds if they get bounced early. It all just depends on what the matchups are going to be. Because if let's say it's the second round and someone goes to play South Dakota State, and let's say it's, a decent team and they lose by 24, are they really, frauds? Or just those teams are pretty damn good? So at the end of the day, if you're not in the Valley, you're going to be called a fraud this postseason. And I truly believe that. And by Valley, I mean South Dakota State, North Dakota State. They all look really good. Illinois State looks good. North Dakota looks good. Everyone else is going to be a fraud at some point. Mercer is going to be called a fraud, and their defense is electric. Zach, you're saying it all year long. I said it last week. If you guys aren't listening to the Bluebloods, listen to him because he's right. Mercer has the best freaking defense in the nation right now. And they look the part in the playoffs. They're going to look like a fraud, I think, when they play a South Dakota State. Even though, we're trying to judge 125 teams off of the pedigree of two teams right now, and everyone else is going to look kind of fraudish.
Yeah, Kylor,
Albany last year. Albany was not a fraud 100%. Last year and ran into the buzzsaw that was South Dakota State in Brookings.
Fraud.
Yeah, this is a dumb question. No offense to the person who submitted it, but the top 16 teams, the way they're doing the seeding now, it takes away some of that, I think, some of that questioning on who should be a seed and who's not. And if you earned a top 16 team, you probably damn well earned it. I don't think calling someone a fraud is the right thing here because there's obviously different levels. And the Missouri Valley, Big Sky, you put the money on them, they're probably the ones who go first in the playoffs. We understand that. Everybody gets that. People who aren't fans of those conferences understand that as well, right? We get you're the SEC and the, I don't even freaking know, Big Ten of the FCS. We get it. We don't care. But to call Mercer a fraud, if let's say they make it they get a seed and then somehow they stumble because they get a match against a team that can pick apart, that matches well against the defense, or to call, I don't know, well, Villanova might actually be a fraud. But I think it's just a bad wording of the question. I think you could say who may be overseeded would be the better way to ask this question.
Well, because I'll defend our listener real quick, just because at the end of the day, strength of schedule has played a part in getting teams high seeds, right? Yeah. When we looked at Jacksonville State as a 1 seed or 2 seed, whenever year they were, that was kind of fraudish. And then they didn't play anyone from the CA, Big Sky, or Missouri Valley to get to the title game when those were by far the 3 best conferences that year. So it became a little bit of a fraud. Now, what I will say is I'm going to defend the committee a little bit. I think the last few seasons, the committee has done a really damn good job. So there hasn't been a lot of true frauds making a deep run. And without the regionality portion and actually seeding, we're going to see less real frauds going deep in the playoffs. So it is going to be kind of fun to watch. So, but I think the committee's done a damn good job actually viewing the strength of schedule and you're looking at who's beat who, blah, blah, blah. So we're seeing less of that. And the actual, committee seems a little more educated than maybe 5 years, ago or 8 years ago and all that jazz. But I think it still stems from those old Sam Houston days, Jacksonville State, when they didn't play anyone in the preseason and their conference record was a little shaky. Then they got top seeds and then they got bounced pretty early and killed. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of that. All right, now I appreciate that. So now we're going to go to probably the Taco King's favorite segment.
Taco King, coming to you from bright and sunny Fargo, North Dakota. It's time for a taco bet and time for you losers to pay up.
All right, Taco King. So we finally got you on the pod. It happens about once a year. I changed the question a little bit before I sent you guys because I think Matt has said some pretty stupid things on these taco bets, and we change them before we post them every single time because I go, Matt, what were you thinking? And I have no issue calling you out. You were at a game yesterday. You were on sidelines at the North Dakota State game, having the time of your life. So screw you, Matt. You picked a stupid question. So I changed it just by one. All right, taco bet. Big South, Southland, SoCon, and UAC. Over under 5.5 playoff teams. And it was 4.5, Matt. I thought that was too easy because one of these probably should maybe get 2. But the rest, this is going to be competitive. This is going to be interesting. So, Rev, you already putting your hand up. What are you thinking?
I'm taking the over, and I'll tell you why. I think United gets 2. I think the SoCon gets 2. I think Southland gets 1. I think the Big South gets 1. There's your 6.
Ooh, man, the SoCon looks like it's a one big conference right now. Zach.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over 2, and I'm gonna take I'm gonna take a different approach. I think the Big South might get 2
That's true too. Big
because
South,
I think UT Martin could win out and be sitting there at 9-3, and SEMO could also probably be in the top, somewhere in that top 10 conversation with their schedule as well, because they've already played. So if both of those teams went out, I don't see a 9-3 UT Martin team getting left out of the playoffs this year, especially with how ugly the bubble is going to be this year. Man, there's going to be some ugly resumes sitting there wanting to get in. And also too, I think the SoCon is probably going to get 2. When I look at the SoCon, because here's the thing is Chattanooga, everyone can look at their record and say, oh, they're 2-3. They could easily win out. And they just went out they just went and beat a really good ETSU team. And 2 of their 3 losses were to FBS schools, and their other loss was a 7-point loss to Mercer. So not a bad loss. And there's a chance Mercer and Chat could get in. And there would be a conversation, depending on how that third team, maybe ETSU, finishes out, that the SoCon would have another team on the bubble as well. So I think I'm going higher. I think we're going to be somewhere around 6. And then, like the Rev said, Tarleton and Central Arkansas will probably both be in that conversation. One of them getting the auto bid, and the other one being in conversations for an at-large bid.
I wasn't even picking Tarleton. I was picking Abilene Christian.
So you might have 3 USC teams that somewhere on that bubble.
Yeah, for sure. And the nice thing is, if you are a part of the Big South, Southland, SoCon, UAC, the Big Sky doesn't look very good this year. So I think, instead of having 4 or 5 teams, the Big Sky may only get 3 teams in. We'll have to see what happens, because kind of history is a reality where normally you're going to reward a conference that performs a little better. But I'm going to go the over 2. I thought it was going to actually be 6. I was hoping one person would pick the under because Matt put a 4.5, which was wild. I think the SoCon's only going to get 1, unfortunately, though. I'm looking at the SoCon, and I think they're 1. I think, the Southland has a chance to get 2. I think the Big South, probably going to get 1. The UAC, I don't know. This is going to be interesting, but I do think 6 teams are going to come from out of here, and probably it's going to be because, the Big Sky is not getting one of their normal bids that they normally get. Taco King, what you thinking?
Well, I'll just go opposite and take the under because
fair enough.
Why not? I like buying tacos, but as you were talking about Matt having a good time at the game yesterday, I got proof. How do we go? There we are.
You got proof?
Oh, yeah, there it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go into the quick hits. Let's see here. Do they have a banner for this? I think they do.
Yeah, I'll say while you pull this up too, Kylor, like with the Southland, if UIW loses to Nichols, UIW is not going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to get left out like they did last year. So that's why I put this out. That's why I put Southland at 1, because Nichols looks really good. I hate to say that because I don't like them.
Just because your question is answered quickly doesn't mean we don't care. It's time for this week's quick hit questions.
Perfect. So now it's time for the quick hits. We're only going to spend a couple seconds on this. I'm going to throw these out to whoever I want to hear because I think it's more fun. But who is the best QB in the FCS right now, and why is it Cam Miller? Screw you, Bryan. You don't get an answer because we already heard your take. Rev, go for it, my friend.
I mean, there's other QBs that statistically are better in certain categories than Cam Miller, but if you look all around, it's Cam Miller. I'm not going to argue that point. Like I think he's going to be up there as a Peyton finalist with Derek Powell. I just think it's a matter of who gets further yardage-wise out of the 2 that's going to get it. Perfect.
Zach, I'm going to actually throw this next one to you. What outcome was the most shocking of the weekend?
Oh, God. I know what happened last weekend up there on the red turf, but, man, we were putting up 55 points. I'm sorry. You could have bet me all the money in the world, and I would have said you were insane for thinking that was going to happen. That blew my mind, especially in Y Grizz too. I didn't see that one coming. That by far to me, that's the most shocking.
100%. Yeah. That was pretty impressive. Who is who and what is what? Make it make sense. I'm so confused. I love the chaos and parody this season, and we're only halfway through the regular season. This is by Andrew Markham. And we're going to pair it up with Dustin as well. But who are the imposters and who is real? Zach, I'm actually going to throw it back at you.
We got 4 real teams in the league, and a bunch of question marks or imposters. I'm not separating everybody. Like, listen, if you're not Montana State, South Dakota, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, you got to prove it to me. I'm not sold on anybody right now. Just the bad part is the closest team I'm to put in that category is Mercer. The one question mark is DJ Smith just got hurt. I don't know when he's going to be back, and offensively, they just haven't shown the consistency. So they're right there, but I think outside of those top four, you'd be hard pressed to say anybody else is going to make a run to Frisco. So I think we got 4 contenders and a whole bunch of question marks in the FCS.
Perfect. This one's Liam, and I'm going to shoot it over to the Taco King. Grizz remaining schedule. You have Northern Colorado, who is the most dominant team I've ever seen. And Cal Poly, those should be auto wins. NAU and PSU won't be easy, but should be wins. Davis 50-50, Montana State 50-50, simply because it's the Brawl of the Wild. If the Grizz lose 2 more games, will the Grizz make the playoffs and be one of the 16 seeds?
Yes. How do they lose the games? I think that's going to matter. I think how you lose a game is kind of important in a way. If you lose a close, hard-fought game, I think the committee does look at that a little bit. At the end of the day, 2 more games, are they either of them a blowout? Then the Grizz might not be. But you tell me right now the Grizz lose the Brawl closely and they lose the other game close, I think they're fringe 15-16 seed. I think they're right there.
Yeah, fair enough. They got too much money. They'll be 16 as long as they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's just be real.
Yeah. I can't put them out the top side of 16.
Fair enough. Now, what I will disagree with Liam is some of those games are not 50-50. You're high. Okay. The Rev. How surprising was Nichols' route of Southern? And, should we have seen this one coming?
Yes, you should have seen this one coming. Like, no offense to Southern and no offense to the SWAC, but the SWAC doesn't like to win games outside the SWAC. Let's just be honest. They get paid to win games in the SWAC. They don't get paid to win their out-of-conference games. So this isn't a shock. And Nichols has the biggest freaking running back I've ever seen in Colin Guggenheim. Dude wears eye black, wears the neck roll pad. Like, that dude is a beast. And so, no, this wasn't a surprise at all. No slander towards Southern, but yeah, no, this was, I said on the sermon that this is one of the ones where they win big, and you take that, whatever that line is, and put Nichols over that line, because they were just going to go in, and this wasn't a shock.
Fair enough. Yeah, Chad asked, has the Big Sky already eliminated their chance at one of the top 4 seeds? What? No, you still have Montana State. What kind of stupid question was this, Chad? I love you, Chad. And I'm also going to answer the next one, too, because who's better top to bottom right now, the Missouri Valley or the Big Sky? That's from Joshua Hoffman. Yeah, the Missouri Valley by far. This year, and I'm one of those realists. There's some years where, and it has been few and far between, but there's some years the Big Sky's been better than the Missouri Valley top to bottom. This is not one of those years. Top to bottom, the Missouri Valley is by far better than the Big Sky and by far better than everyone else. Big Sky's closer on the same tier as the UAC, Southland, and CAA right now. I really do believe that. So I think the Big Sky's overrated.
Yeah.
Zach, I'm sending this next one to you because it's your boys from the SoCon. Does Mercer have a case being a top 4 team by the end of the season if they can win out against the FCS? Of course, we're not counting that Alabama. If they beat Alabama and win out, give them the 1 seed, give them the trophy, give them whatever you want. Even though Vanderbilt took them, but let's hear. Does Mercer have an opportunity to be a top 4 seed if they win out with the FCS competition?
If they win out, I think they should be a top 3 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care what the other resumes look like. You can't say that a team that's 11-1 with their only loss to Alabama not be there. I mean, because their Chat was a ranked win. They got a ranked win over Wofford. So there are 2 ranked wins. If Princeton wins to Ivy and Mercer beats Princeton this weekend, they'll have a win over the Ivy League champion. And they got more ranked matchups. ETSU will probably still be top 25, and we'll see. I mean, they could have 3 top 25 wins on their resume. They'll be fine. And I still think that defense is good enough. But if the time in the FCS, we have an 11-1 team that doesn't get a top 3 seed, is a time we need to end the FCS playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and yeah, especially the SoCon isn't as bad as everyone thinks they have been. Sure, they're not the power of the SoCon of the old days, but they're a good conference. They're decent. They're middle tier. If you win out, yeah, deserve a top 4 seed. I'm going to throw this one over to the Taco King because he loves the Valley. Is Illinois State a fringe top 8 potential by the end of the year?
No, I don't think they are if things play out in SoCon, Mercer, and no, I can't put them there. I think they can be top 10. I think they can be that 9 or 10 team. I top 8, I'd be a little surprised if they're there.
Okay.
The beatings they've taken. I mean, the North Dakota State looked ugly. No.
Fair enough. I think he said no. This one I'm sending over to the Rev because I want to see, because I also don't think he's watched any of these games. So I don't have Flow Sports. So I want to put Rev on the spot. I don't have Floor Sports, so I'd never get to really see any of the CAA games. Who is the actual best by the eye test in the CAA, Rev? And also,
North Carolina Central is currently the best CAA team
you've watched.
Yeah. Dude, that was my answer. North Carolina Central is the best team in the CAA right now. They're in the MEAC. They are but Zach was right. I mean, Villanova, honestly, statistically they look like they're dominating, but they also haven't been a dominating team. Bill and Mary look good. But to the point, I'm not paying for Flow Sports. So the answer is,
like I said, he hasn't watched shit.
I haven't watched this single one.
We're actually going to pair this with Zach. Let's see. Zach, how many CAA teams have you watched in the regular season?
I mean, probably almost all of them by now, at least one game.
Man.
I mean, I'll say this. If we're going to be fair, I know everyone forgets they exist in the FCS because they are leaving. Delaware has by far probably been the best team eye test wise in the CAA. Like, Delaware is rolling right now.
Until they played Monmouth.
Until they played Monmouth, yeah.
Yeah, until they play Monmouth. But I mean, Delaware's sitting there 5-0. But I'll say eye test. I know I kind of crapped on them earlier, but Villanova's probably the best team in that conference right now. I will say I was really high on Rhode Island. I still am. They kind of, I don't know what happened. They benched their starting quarterback till the second half this week and let Hampton damn near get an upset. And then they put their starter back in to save their life and score like 29 points in the final fourth quarter and overtime. So I don't know what happened there, but Rhode Island has some talent, man. Malik Grant's a stud at running back. I like Farrell at quarterback. So I would say Rhode Island's right there too.
Awesome.
Yeah. And Kylor, I've watched some CAA teams, just not on Flow Sports. I've had to watch them play elsewhere to see what they look like. And
he finds the illegal YouTube streams.
Shout out Monmouth. Yeah. Hey, shout out Monmouth. That's a fun team to watch this year if you haven't watched them.
Yeah, I watched them. They made Eastern look like gods. So no, Monmouth sucks too. CAA sucks. At the end of the day, now we're all going to answer the next two because, like you guys know, there's always two questions that have nothing to do with football. So at the end of the day, we want to hear all of your guys' answers. Given a day with no obligations, no nothing, how late do you actually sleep in? Let's be honest. So Taco King, let's start with you.
Well, if I have no obligations for the day, how late did I stay up? That's the real question.
Good question.
How late did I stay up? I have no obligations. Well, let's go find a bar. Let's go find some beer, Kylor, and see how many we can pound down before the place closes.
I like it.
In that case, I don't know, noon.
Fair enough. Rev?
I still will wake up by 8 o'clock, but it doesn't mean I'll get out of bed. I will lounge there. I will, watch YouTube, do all this other stuff, but I'll still be awake by 8 o'clock. Unfortunately, having a kid ruins any sort of sleeping late. And you got to get back to that. I look forward to when she's in high school and I can finally get back to sleeping until like 10 or 11. But yeah, by 8 o'clock, I'm still up.
Fair enough. Yeah, Zach?
I mean, I'm kind of the same as Bryan there. It's like, just how late did I stay up? Because I'm already like an insomniac. I'm never asleep before like 1 o'clock in the morning, even when I have stuff to do the next day. But with no obligations, probably like 10. I think once I hit 10, like my body's like, dude, like what are you doing here? Yeah.
Well, the thing with me is there isn't a day I do not have obligations, unfortunately.
That's a damn lie.
You can take my schedule, man. Every single morning, at least by 6:30, I have to turn on my phone because I manage a lot of Florida locations, and they work 7 days a week, and I have to be available. So, unfortunately, I am up every single day at 6:30.
That's rough. That's rough working from your pool. I totally get it, though.
Now, that's a different discussion. Doesn't mean I don't walk over to my pool and have a good time and crack open beer, but I at least have to be awake and turn on my phone for the volume. But, yes, that portion is a rough life. All right, last question. This one's a wild one. I would have never thought we got asked this question because, to me, I think maybe Josh, we got to ask you this question. But Joshua Hoffman asked, is laundry fun or does it suck? Zach, do you like laundry?
In comparison, like, I got to deal with my girlfriend. Like, I'll do the laundry. You just like, I hate dishes. I'm good on that. Like, I don't. That's the worst thing ever. So I'd rather do laundry. And also, too, with laundry, you can take it wherever you want, watch TV, do whatever, like make it go by faster. So I don't mind laundry. It's not terrible.
Okay. Taco King? Taco King just buys new socks every day.
Yeah.
He doesn't do laundry.
Well,
rich bitch.
Kind of do buy new packs of socks every about a month, to be honest.
I called it, man.
I don't mind doing laundry, but I don't fold. So I'm hoping the new fiance likes to fold because, that could be a deal breaker really quick if I have to start trying to fold my own laundry.
Perfect. Yeah, Rev.
Yeah, like I travel so much for my job that doing laundry isn't a big deal to me, and I do my own and actually do my daughter's because whenever I'm not traveling, I'm working from home, so it's easy for me to do them versus my wife who goes into the office that she's in. So no, to me, it's just one of those necessary things you have to do. And to Zach's point, you can take it and watch TV while you're doing it. It's a good excuse to step away from work too. Like, you know what? I'm gonna walk away for 15 minutes and put up these clothes. Like to me, it's not bad. I can think of worse chores like dusting or vacuuming or weeding the yard and shit like that. Like laundry is all right.
I'm gonna sound so sexist. So just be ready, guys. I got married for a reason.
Oh God.
Joking. I'm joking. But at the end of the day, I do have a phenomenal wife who actually does all my chores for me because she retired at the age of 31. So she's a stay-at-home, beautiful wife, and she actually does all my laundry. She cooks all my food. She passes me my lunch. She does everything. So at the end of the day, I pay money. She does everything. So yeah, I don't do laundry. I don't need to. So that's my chore.
He big boyed us on the back
He
into this
really
episode.
did.
Yeah, he said I have to be up because I have a real job and I don't even do my own laundry. He was like, he doesn't understand the struggle of like normal people apparently.
Yeah,
normal people, it doesn't exist. I got a wife.
So people give me crap because I'm like posting photos from my pool all the time and stuff like that. But this guy, dude, like, what the hell, man? Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
When you get to be home 3 days a week and you got a hot wife, you got to be in the pool. So that's what happens. All right, guys. Hey, for one, I appreciate you guys coming in and bailing out Matt and Jamie, who again think life is more important than this FCS podcast, where we at least make $3 every single month. So thanks a lot, Jamie and Matt. It seems like you have really wasted everyone else's time, but at least we had the Rev. I appreciate you, Rev, coming in. At least we had the real Taco King. He's going to buy, tacos in Frisco for everyone. And then, of course, we have the most knowledgeable guy in the FCS, Mr. Bluebloods himself. Take a bow. I appreciate you guys. I want each one of you to give, a 10, 15-second plug because all of you guys do a lot of different things for us. Taco King kind of behind the scenes a little bit more, but every one of you guys contribute a lot. Where can they find you? What are you working on? Just it's your time to do your plug. So, Rev, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, and I'm glad to step in and be. Usually I'm broadcast to you, so I don't know who else broadcast this week. But no, Southland Sermon you can find on this network. Zach comes on there every now and then. Other than that, you can find me hating people on Twitter, all the good places.
Perfect. Taco King, when can we see you?
Frisco.
Frisco, baby.
Plane tickets are booked. Heading down on the 3rd. Matt and I will be on the plane together, and the night of the game will be a taco party. What else would there be? This year, I hear Zach might stay a little longer. Said it'd be cool and leave early.
Fair enough. He had Coach Fred and Zach. They ate tons of tacos with us.
You did?
Yeah, I thought we stayed for a good while. Like, man, I didn't know we dipped out that early.
Yeah,
he's just mad. He bought bunk beds last time, and you didn't get to participate.
Zach's going to show up. Crazy. Zach's going to show up this year with Sam Herder and like other big wigs, like national celebrities and stuff this time.
I don't know if Herder an invite. He likes to dog the bison a little much these days, so Herder might be on the invite list.
Fair enough. Well, Zach, you already did 7. This is now your 8th episode of the day. The hardest working man in FCS ball, and man, I appreciate you. When you started doing the Bluebloods, I was very vocal online saying, if you guys want to listen to the best podcast out there, please listen to Bluebloods. I love the segment you were doing. Everyone was calling in. Coach Fred was a great addition. I really, truly mean, I think you are the best in the business. And I want to say thank you for all you do for the FCS. So now after I've already, touted you as the greatest, the GOAT, speak whatever you want to say, man. The floor is yours. And then we'll end it with a boom. And then you need to say the boom.
Oh man, hey, I appreciate you, man. Anytime, man. You guys want me to hop on here, man? I'll definitely make time. The Bluebloods on YouTube, all podcast streaming platforms. My guy Timothy Rosario. Catch me with Sam Herder on I think Wednesdays. We drop that show for Hero Sports, and then FCS Football Central on SI, man. SI.com/college/FCS.
Where's that boom?
Oh, boom.
Oh,
Thank you for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe on YouTube. To listen ad-free and enjoy many other perks, join FCS Gold for only 99 cents a month by using the link in the description below. Make sure to follow FCS Fans Nation on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you for listening to the premier podcast for FCS football.
All right, let's just start recording. Now I'll go to that intro, and then, baby, we'll get started.